Hello sports fans, welcome to Super Sports Central. Today, we're going to be going over my Week 6 college football predictions. So last week I had a record of 15-1, and that brings my record on the season to 90-12. Kicking things off this week with Maryland at Ohio State. So Maryland's actually gotten off to a really good start this season, their best start since 2001, as they are currently 5-0. Now they haven't really played anybody, but they have dominated those 5 games to start the season. Now Maryland could make this one interesting against Ohio State, because they have a very good passing offense with an experienced quarterback in Tua Tagovailoa, who's actually been pretty good against the Buckeyes in his career. Is in 2 total games. He has a combined 572 passing yards and 5 total touchdowns. Now, Ohio State's defense is really good, and their pass defense is the 5th best in the country, allowing just 149 passing yards a game. So I definitely think Ohio State will be able to stop Maryland's passing attack and their offense overall. But I definitely think Maryland could make this one closer than it could be expected. But I've got Ohio State with the win by a score of 34-17. Moving on, we've got LSU at Missouri. So this is a really tough game to predict. Missouri's been one of the more surprising teams so far, as they currently sit at 5-0, while LSU already has 2 losses. Now this game should be a shootout, as both teams have great offenses, particularly great passing attacks. Plus LSU's defense is coming off a game where they just allowed 55 points and 389 passing yards, over 700 total yards. And LSU's defense will face another tough task this week, as Missouri has a very good quarterback-wide receiver duo. At quarterback, they've got Brady Cook, who's completed over 74% of his passes this season and hasn't thrown a pick in 348 pass attempts. And their really good receiver is Luther Burden, who leads the country in receiving yards with 664. So LSU will have their hands full defensively. Now, the Missouri defense has to deal with an elite LSU offense that has been really good this season. Quarterback Jaden Daniels leads the country in passing yards, and they have a great 1-2 punch at receiver with Malik Neighbors, who's 2nd in the country in receiving yards, and also Brian Thomas. So this is going to be a fun one. I could definitely see the winner of this game in the 50s. A lot like the LSU Ole Miss game last week. I don't think it will be quite that high scoring, but LSU really needs to get the win here to avoid dropping to 3-3. And it won't be easy on the road against a quality Missouri team, but I think LSU gets the much needed win by a score of 45-37. Up next, we got Texas against Oklahoma at the Cotton Bowl. So this is another fun one. The Red River rivalry for the final time while these 2 teams are in the Big 12. Now, both teams are undefeated, and this is the first time both teams are undefeated when they face off since 2011. Both teams have elite offenses, as Oklahoma averages 47 points a game and Texas at 34 points a game. Now, both teams have great offenses. Their defenses have also been really good through the first month of the season. In fact, these are the 2 best scoring defenses in the Big 12, allowing a little over 10 points a game. Now, while both defenses are good, I don't think this is going to be a lower scoring game. Both these teams are built to score, and I definitely think that's the way this game will go. I would expect a higher scoring game, and this could really go either way. It could come down to who has the ball last, but I have Texas with the win. I think they've got the more balanced offense with a great passing game and a great run game, plus their defense is better than Oklahoma. Even though Oklahoma may have the better statistical defense, I think Texas has the better overall defense, and I've got Texas winning the Red River Showdown in a fun, high-scoring game by a score of 42-34. Up next, we got Virginia Tech at Florida State. So Virginia Tech isn't great, but they snapped their 3-game losing streak last week with a win over Pitt. Florida State's been one of the best teams in the country so far this season, and they're coming off a bye. Florida State's offense just going to be way too good for Virginia Tech to keep up with, and Florida State wins this one easily, 45-14. Next game, we've got North Carolina hosting Syracuse. So North Carolina got some big news this week, as the NCAA reversed their decision, and they will let wide receiver Tez Walker play this season, and that is going to mean he makes his season debut this week against Syracuse. Now, Syracuse got off to a good start before getting destroyed by Clemson last week, and North Carolina has also been really good so far this season, and they're coming off a bye. North Carolina needs to make sure they limit Syracuse quarterback Garrett Schrader as a runner, because that is what Clemson did last week, and the Syracuse offense was not good. But I think North Carolina is able to get the win here. I don't think it will be a blowout, but I don't think it will be the closest game. I've got North Carolina by a score of 35-23. Moving on, we've got Texas A&M hosting Alabama. This is another really interesting game. Neither team is amazing, and I would expect this to be a lower scoring game, as both teams have very good defenses and offenses that are okay. Texas A&M is without starting quarterback Connor Wegman, as he's out for the year. So that means former LSU quarterback Max Johnson will be starting for the Aggies, and he started 2 games against Alabama from back when he was at LSU. Now, I think Alabama is probably the better team, but Texas A&M is going to make this very interesting, because they have played Alabama tough over the past couple seasons, as last year it came down to the wire and Alabama only won by 4, and the prior season Texas A&M won on a walk-off field goal. Now, as much as I want Texas A&M to win this game, I'm going to go with Alabama because I think their defense is probably better, and I think Jalen Milroe can come up with some big plays as a runner. And I've got Alabama with the win here by a score of 24-17. Moving on, we've got another really good game. That is UCLA hosting Washington State. So this isn't a particularly good matchup for Washington State because they've found a lot of success this season on the offensive side of the football, specifically through the air, and they face a great Bruins defense, which is the best scoring defense in the Pac-12, allowing just 11 points a game. And UCLA also has one of the best pass defenses in the country, allowing just 186 passing yards a game. Now, I think Washington has the better and more experienced quarterback in Cam Ward. And while Dante Moore is great for UCLA, he is a true freshman. And I think Cam Ward will make more big plays, even against a great UCLA defense, and Washington State gets the win. But it will not be easy against a great defense on the road for Washington State. This game could definitely go either way. I've got Washington State with the win, remaining undefeated by a score of 27-17. Up next, we got Kentucky at Georgia. So Kentucky's coming off a big win over Florida where they ran wild, and they're going to need to run the ball extremely effectively this week if they want to beat Georgia. Now, Georgia's defense is still very good, but it is possible to score and run the football against them this season, as opposed to the past couple years where it was just impossible to do both. Now, last week we saw Auburn run for 200 yards, but a good amount of that was from their quarterback, and Kentucky doesn't have a rushing threat at quarterback with Devin Leary. Now, speaking of Devin Leary, he's going to need to have a flawless game if Kentucky wants to come out of Athens with the win. Now, I think Kentucky could make this very similar to the two previous SEC games for Georgia, those being South Carolina and Auburn earlier this year, both were very close games. But like those two previous SEC games for Georgia, I think they're just going to find a way to somehow get the win by a score of 24-20, another ugly win for Georgia. Next game, we've got Minnesota hosting Michigan. So this is a game that should not be very close. Michigan's defense hasn't allowed more than 7 points this season, and Minnesota's offense is not very good. Michigan's offense hasn't been insane to start the season, but they've got a good chance to have a good offensive game against the Minnesota defense that is not very good. So Michigan wins this game fairly easily by a score of 41-7. Up next, we got Arkansas at Ole Miss. So Ole Miss is coming off a huge win over LSU, and now Arkansas is not going to be an easy opponent. This game should be a shootout as neither team's defense is great and both teams have an ability to score the football. I think Ole Miss is the better offense, and they will eventually score way too much for Arkansas to keep up with. I'm very concerned about the Ole Miss defense, but the Ole Miss offense is just way too powerful for this Arkansas offense, and Ole Miss will get the win here, eventually just scoring way too much, and Ole Miss wins 45-28. Moving on, we've got Louisville hosting Notre Dame. So Notre Dame needs to get back on track offensively after two not good offensive performances. And Notre Dame also needs to make sure they don't get caught looking ahead to USC next week. But Notre Dame will not have it easy this week against Louisville. The Louisville offense is very good, especially their passing offense with quarterback Jack Plummer. Although Plummer has thrown 6 interceptions so far this season, and that could play into the favor of the Irish, who have an outstanding secondary and pass defense. One of the best pass defenses in the country, allowing just 146 passing yards per game. Now, I definitely think Notre Dame will be able to stop the Louisville offense, and I think Notre Dame will also have a better offensive game than their previous couple games, even against a solid Cardinals defense, and Notre Dame gets the win here by a score of 35-17. Up next, we got Miami hosting Georgia Tech. So, this game is a great matchup for Miami. They have a great offense, and they face against a bad Georgia Tech defense. Miami runs the ball extremely effectively for 222 rushing yards per game. Georgia Tech allows over 200 rushing yards a game. Miami also has a very good passing attack with quarterback Tyro Van Dyke, who's been great so far this season. I think this Miami offense will have a field day, and they will easily beat Georgia Tech by a score of 52-20. Up next, we got Wyoming hosting Fresno State. So this is a game that could truly go either way between these two Mountain West teams. Both have been great to start the season. Fresno State has been led by great quarterback play and a strong defense. But their defense will be put to the test, especially their run defense, as they face off against a really good Wyoming run game. But I think Fresno State's just a little bit better team here. This will be a defensive battle, but I think Fresno State gets the win by a score of 24-16. Our second to last game is Cal hosting Oregon State. So Oregon State is a team that runs the ball and plays good defense, but Cal is a very similar play style to that. I could definitely see Cal making this one interesting, but I definitely think Oregon State needs a good game from DJ Uyunglele, and I think that should happen as Cal's pass defense is not very good. So I will take Oregon State because of their pass defense, and I also think they've got the better defense, but I don't really think Oregon State will have that much success running the football because Cal has a very good run defense. But Oregon State wins this one in a game that's probably closer than expected, 31-20. And our final game, USC hosting Arizona. So Arizona might be without starting quarterback Jaden Dewara as he is dealing with an ankle injury. So if Dewara is unable to go, then backup Noah Fafita will get the start. And he started last week for Arizona and played pretty well in their loss to Washington. I could definitely see Arizona being able to score points against a terrible USC defense, but I don't think the Arizona offense is able to keep up with Caleb Williams and the USC offense, and USC gets the win by a score of 52-28, but they do need to make sure they don't get caught looking ahead to next week against Notre Dame. But those are my Week 6 college football predictions. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, comment, turn on notifications so don't miss any of the upcoming videos. I do my best to post as often as possible. Make sure to check out the community tab of my channel where you can vote on who you think will win some of this week's big games. But thank you for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, comment, turn on notifications. I do my best to post as often as possible, and I will see you in the next video.